Welcome to In Focus. I'm your host, Yesenia Taveras. The Access Wilmington Committee serves as an advisory committee to the Mayor of Wilmington, Delaware. The committee serves as an advocate for those with disabilities who live, work, or visit the city. Joining me now is the Assistant Chair, Catherine Coyne, and the Chair of the committee, Ken Wolf. I didn't want to say your last name wrong. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So before we get into the actual committee, I do know the two of you have history with the committee. So let's talk a little bit about its inception.
Well, I joined the committee in the 1990s, and the committee, you were invited by the mayor to become a member, and I've been actively involved since then. Ken is a little bit after me.
Yep. 2010 I started with the committee. I was asked to join, and I've heard about it for years. It's been a wonderful committee, and I was able at that time to join the committee.
So the committee's been long surviving, over 25 years, and the mayor that gets elected every term has actually chosen to keep the committee going, which is a wonderful thing for our community.
Correct.
Yes, definitely. And with that being said, once you get appointed, you have to actually make the decision to accept. So tell us a little bit about why you accepted this honor of being part of this committee.
Okay, do you want to start?
Okay. It was an honor to be part of the committee. There was another gentleman on the committee named Larry Henderson who was in a wheelchair, and he asked me to be on the committee, and I thought it was a great idea, and they had a wonderful mission. And the mayor sends a letter asking you to join the committee, and you accept it, and you're on the committee. So it's a very easy, simple process.
And why did you say yes?
I said yes because I just thought the committee had a lot to offer, because we're working with the community. We're working with people with many types of disabilities, whether it's blindness, whether it's cognitive disabilities, or wheelchair, or physical disabilities. So we can relay that information back to the mayor of issues that are arising in the community that the city might not be aware of, to make it a better place for people to work, play, and live.
Now let's talk a little bit about what that looks like. So the committee comes together one time a month, and the committee is actually formed by family members, caregivers of those with disabilities, city employees who can actually talk about those with disabilities and the adversities that they face here living and working and visiting. But let's talk a little bit about what the committee looks like. So I know you guys just met this morning. Right. So what are some of these meetings, what do they look like? What are some of the things that you're hearing that need to be addressed within our community in regards to serving those who are disabled?
Well, our committee members, and we have a variety, some are heads of organizations that work with people with disabilities. Some are family members of people with disabilities, and so each member brings a different perspective to the meetings and to the issues that we discuss. We are always looking for new members, and so there's an open invitation to come and find out more about us and be part of us.
That's wonderful.
Yep.
Yeah. And I would also like to clarify too, when we speak in regards to disability, it's not just a physical realm. It's also mental,
That's
emotional.
correct, yes, cognitive disabilities as well, yeah.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about how the committee is addressing these concerns. I do know that you guys have made some implementations with some restaurants and the Chase Center. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Well, we work closely with the different departments of the city, and the planning department has met with us frequently over the years to bring plans for buildings and for things that are going to be new into the city, to see what the perspective is from the disabled community. When the Chase Center was built back in the 90s, we had a field trip to the Chase Center while it was still under construction, and did have some amendments to the ramp. At that time they had a ramp that went up into the buildings, and our chair at the time was in a wheelchair, and he realized that the angle of the ramp was too steep, and so they changed that. They did some amendments also to the restroom facilities to make them more accessible. And we've also toured the Penn Cinema before that opened, and we went in and saw how the folks in the chairs could get around and get into and out of the different theaters. And so we've done those kinds of things. We've toured city parks, and again looked at the different accessibility routes for people with disabilities.
And so it's not only just an idea that is thought about or a problem that is addressed, you're also making steps to help find the solution, and then the city on the other side is actually making sure the solution happens.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's a value to our city.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
And go ahead, Ken.
I'm sorry, they do come to us for many of the issues, even parking lots or parking signs and lights that might not be on a corner where people with disabilities are living and they can't cross the street. So, we talk about having stoplights at different intersections as well that can be manipulated by people with disabilities so they can cross the street safely. And also communities have come to us about changing their parking area. They want side parking instead of parallel parking, diagonal parking. And people with disabilities, if their handicap accessible spots are in the middle of the street, the person in a wheelchair, may not be able to get out of their van to get to the sidewalk, and then they would have to ride down the middle of the street in order to get to a corner, and hopefully there's an entrance so they can get up on the sidewalk. So we've had issues from the community that come to us about issues, and we've tried to solve it. We discuss it and then take it back to the city and have appropriate departments come and work with us.
How important do you feel that having this committee surviving over 25 years under each mayor of the city of Wilmington, why is it so important to continue this committee on?
I don't think people consciously avoid certain things or don't pay attention to certain things. They're just not aware of them.
Right.
And so our role is to create an awareness of a situation that isn't accessible for all people, and that is accessible to
That people might not understand.
yeah, that people may not. Yeah.
That doesn't have a disability or doesn't work or have a family member with a disability.
Yeah.
They don't understand the nuances of what they might go through on a daily basis, where our committee is made up of consumers that have different disabilities, as well as people that work in the community with nonprofit agencies that are on our committee that also work on a daily basis with people with disabilities. So we know the everyday needs of a person with a disability.
Yeah. To go back just to when you were talking about the parking, Larry, who brought Ken onto the committee, drove a van and was in a chair, and he would get to a parking space, and he could not read the parking meter because his chair was lower than the parking meter.
Yep.
Wow.
And so that was something that was effectively changed so that the handicap meters, the blue meters that we have now, are lower, and that's so people who are in chairs can access the parking meters.
I was never aware of that. I never stopped to pay attention.
They
Wow, that's
also
amazing.
changed the angle, I
Yes.
believe, of the meters because he couldn't see what was on the front of the meter.
They
And-
were facing the street and they had to be turned so they would face the sidewalk where he'd get out of his van
Wonderful.
so he could reach it
Yeah.
and see it.
So that was like one example. Another thing that we discussed at length back in the 90s, and still do to some degree, are curb cuts. Because at that time, the accessibility guidelines were relatively new, and so a lot of things were being implemented. And there was, at one point, a decision to put the curb cut diagonally on the corner.
Okay.
And that time our chairperson was visually impaired, and he said, that's like the worst thing, because I'll go down that ramp, I won't know which way the cars are coming, and I'm right there in the intersection.
Right, exactly.
And so we don't have those anymore. We have curb cuts that go across each street so that then you can know which way the traffic is going.
Exactly.
Wow, that's bringing the right kind of awareness to these actually meetings that make the solution happen.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Exactly. And they're seem like little things, like things that you wouldn't, if we did not have someone with that particular disability experiencing that, we might not be aware of it, or the city might not be aware of it.
Right.
And so we become the voice then and say, okay, this is what needs to be done to make this perfect for everyone.
And it's incredible that your voice is being heard and your suggestions are being implemented to make change within our community. That in
they
itself
are.
is very important.
The mayors do come over the years. I mean, Mayor Mike has come to our meetings, and we have a representative from his office at all the meetings. And so we do have an open communication.
And what are some of the nuances you've been hearing recently in today's society? Has there been anything that's really stuck out, or is the City of Wilmington doing its job and due diligence and really making it work for all those with disabilities?
It's an ongoing process. It takes time, and of course, every generation there's different issues that arise.
And different needs.
And here the past 2 years, we've helped the IT people with the Wilmington working on their computers and the website to make it more accessible, because it was not accessible to people using screen readers for the blind on the website. None of the buttons would work. None of the links would work. So they've made great strides in changing that so it does work with a screen reader. So things like this and any new plans that may come up in the community for hotels or for restaurants or a new access road to the riverfront, they come to us and ask, do you think this would work, and what do we need to do, what do we need to think about for people with disabilities that we're not?
And that's amazing strides that they've been able to make.
Yeah.
That shows growth. It really does.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
along with that, the mayor every year, is it every year or every 4 years, they do the Access Wilmington Awards?
Every year.
Every
Every year.
year. So, and I know they recently moved it here to our city chambers, but I like the idea that he's really, any mayor in that seat is really recognizing those businesses that are speaking to and addressing the needs of those who are disabled, but as you mentioned before, making sure that they're taking those steps beyond just what's required of them. So let's talk a little bit about the Access Wilmington Awards. We just recently held them not too long ago. Can we talk a little bit about that?
Want to go ahead?
Okay.
I'm not going to butt in, I promise.
That's quite all right. The awards, last year and this year we've combined with the Mayor's Awards because it made more sense. Instead of having them separate, we combined with the Mayor's Awards to have Access Wilmington Awards as well. And we look for people in the community that may not necessarily work with people with disabilities, but yet they go above and beyond. They may work every day with people with disabilities, but on their spare time or their off time or whatever, they go well above what they should be doing or can do or would do normally, just to help people with disabilities to do whatever they might need. Agencies or that might work with people with disabilities, how they've went over and above what their mandate, what their mission statement might be to help to work with people with disabilities. So that's basically what our awards are, the pillars of the community, people in the community that even just average citizens that go above and beyond what they can do.
And that's the real key. It's, everyone, there is a compliance norm now that you need to be aware of, but there are people who just do a little bit more or a little bit something special for this community that might otherwise be overlooked. And that's who we try to recognize. So while we have a series of awards, we don't give every award every year because it has to be something outstanding.
Absolutely special, yes.
Yeah.
And what might that look like? I am aware that the wildlife received an Access Wilmington Award.
The the Environmental Center down on the riverfront.
Yes.
Has a walkway that is totally accessible, and they received an award. You can go across the river walk to the Nature Center, to the Peterson Wildlife Refuge, and you can take the elevator down and then circle a quarter mile around the pond and be right there in the middle of the marsh. And it is totally accessible. It's wide. It's, you know, anybody can do it in a chair or on anything.
And that's an example of going beyond the just the necessary meters that need to be met.
Just each one is special in its own way. That was an award that actually Larry had recommended because he's in a chair, and he said, you know, there's lots of places that are nature places, but they're trails and places where people hike, but then they're through sort of wilderness, and you can't really get into it if you're not totally abled. And so it was his idea to do that, and the committee votes. Every award application comes before the committee. We discuss it, and it's voted on. We don't give everybody an award, even though they're nominated. We just make sure that they're special.
That's wonderful. And in addition to the awards, I am aware that the committee does collaborate with another organization that features children with disabilities and artwork. So can we touch a little bit about, touch bases on that collaboration, what it looks like, and what it is that they're doing?
Well, one of our committee members is the director of the Accessibility and the Arts organization, which is headquartered down in Dover. And because October is Disability Awareness Month, and it is the month that we have always had our award ceremony, since we've been in the city building, the city has allowed us to put up an art exhibit, which is we work with that organization, so all of the artwork is done by people with disabilities. And there's currently an exhibit till the end of this month for children with disabilities, and it's in the lobby of the city building.
Yes, and that is wonderful art to see, and not only for the city employees, the residents who are coming in here as well, and business owners, and it gives the children with disabilities an opportunity to really showcase their work. And as we all know, art is a form of therapy.
Correct.
In all kinds of ways. I mean, the spectrum is very wide. But here we're actually finding a platform for them, and what better place than the City Lewis L. Redding building?
Exactly.
Right.
And it's an area that these children can express themselves individually, where they might not have that opportunity in a group, so they can create this artwork, and it's wonderful. If you haven't seen it, come see it.
Yes, come on
wonderful.
down. And I was going to say that's a great point that you just made, Catherine, because for the most part, you do have those streamlined artists who find an avenue, who are capable and have the ability to really showcase their artwork because they know what resources to tap into. They know where to get their artwork noticed. They know which media agencies to reach out to get a featured story. But here, you're actually bringing that opportunity to them, and that in itself is significant, very significant. That's wonderful. And so in regards to Access Wilmington and the committee, I do know that they're also doing things in regards to not only accessibility and legislation, but also transportation, economics, and I know you're not working with any students yet, but their education is also one of their bullet points that they want to really focus in on. So is there anything that you can share with us in regards to any progress that's been made within those different categories?
Well, we do try to work with students and with teachers. However, because of the timing of our meetings, it makes it impossible for them to attend meetings. But we, again, are very open, and you know, if anyone sees this and wants to come and talk to us or bring some issues to us, we would be very open to that.
Okay. And for those who are watching and are either business owners who are thinking of ways to make their company, it could be their restaurant, their organization, more accessible to those with disabilities, or for that parent or caregiver of someone who has a disability, what could you tell them in regards to the community? How, if they wanted to join, if they wanted more information, what would you like to share with that individual?
They can contact the City County Building and speak to Deborah Kristen Boone, and she can give them all the information they need to either come and participate in our committee, or if they have issues specifically in the community that they see in their neighborhood that perhaps we can help with and bring it back to the mayor, we'd be happy to. If they just contact Deborah Boone, then we can work on it and try to help.
And like we said, go ahead.
We are, in fact, at this morning's meeting, we are in the process of planning an open house meeting.
Oh, wonderful.
After
Okay.
the first of the year, to introduce the community to the committee and to let them be aware that we are looking for new members. We would love to have people come and join us, and people in all kinds of areas of the community, so that they can bring these situations to us so that we can act on them.
And can parents and caregivers bring their child or student if they are someone of this community? Because like Ken was mentioning, you know, what better advocate than one who's really going through the problems and
Exactly.
situations?
Exactly.
Definitely, yeah.
Absolutely.
We're hoping to do it after the first of the year. We're working more actively with different city departments and the city council to have input, so that we want to get our voice heard even more than we've been doing, and so we're kind of reorganizing the committee a little
Absolutely.
bit for this new year.
That's wonderful. And I was going to say, what could they hope to see or learn during this open house?
What we do as a committee, how we interact with the community, how we interact with the mayor, the issues that we work on, how we advocate for people. That's basically what they'll see when they come to one of our meetings.
Wonderful.
Kind of just like, you know, get out and vote, be sure to register and vote.
Right.
And people say, well, you know, I'm just one person, I can't make a difference. Everybody can make a difference if they make us aware of what's going on, and we can then take the ball and run with it, kind of. And so we're there for you. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Catherine and Ken. This has been a wonderful opportunity to bring awareness to the Access Wilmington Committee. The fact that you guys have been surviving for over 25 years is amazing to me. And to see and hear the strides that you've made, and the City of Wilmington really implementing the solutions to the problems that your committee has actually heard and faced. That is amazing. Amazing opportunity and everything that's been happening. So thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Thank you for
Thank
giving
you.
us this opportunity to speak about it.
Yes, our pleasure. You're
Thank you.
welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm your host, Yesenia Taveras. Thank you so much for watching.